Hello guys, welcome back. So in this lecture we are going to discuss about inheritance. By the end of this lecture you will have a better understanding of what is inheritance in Java. We will also take a look at some of the keywords that are important, or some of the terminologies that are important in the world of inheritance. And we will also be doing an example program that will help us understand more on how we can implement inheritance. So let's get started. So to understand inheritance, I will like to take an example over here. Okay, so let's assume there are three cars. Okay, Ferrari, Tesla and Audi. Okay, now these three cars are of the type car. Okay, correct. Like Ferrari is a type of car, Tesla is a type of car, and Audi is also a type of car. Okay, now this type of relationship between Ferrari and car, okay, is also known as is a relationship or parent child relationship or inheritance in the world of object oriented programming. Okay, so we can also say, so if we have to take a look at some other example like that of a mobile phone, so we can say iPhone is a type of a mobile, right? Samsung is a type of a mobile phone. Okay, so this relationship between the iPhone and a mobile phone is known as is a relationship or parent child relationship or inheritance. Okay, in object oriented programming. Okay, now the reason this is called as is a relationship or parent child relationship is because now over here Ferrari, if you look at Ferrari, is a kind of a car. Okay, is a type of a car. Okay, now car is a categorization of Ferrari, Tesla and Audi at a broader level. Okay, at a higher level. Okay, and if we have to make some specific car, we have to drill down into the lower level, which is known as Ferrari, Tesla and Audi. Okay, now this is an example of a scenario in real world. Okay, now if you have to represent this relationship between Ferrari, Tesla, Audi and car, okay, we have to represent it in this way. So this is the syntax of representing inheritance in the world of Java. Okay, so we can define class over here. Okay, so class, parent class. Okay, so now in this particular relationship I would like to mention that car is also known as parent class. Okay, and Ferrari, Tesla, Audi are also known as child classes. Okay, so over here in syntax we have to mention, okay, class, parent class. We have to first define the parent class over here. Okay, we have to define corresponding methods and fields. So as per our example, okay, this particular example over here, okay, here we will define class car. Okay, we will define all the methods and fields within the class car. Okay, and then we will define three classes. Okay, which is Ferrari, Tesla and Audi. Okay, so I'll just take Ferrari for now for the sake of this example. Okay, so we'll create a Ferrari class Ferrari extends car. Okay, and then we will define methods and field within Ferrari class. Okay, now one point to be noted over here, that is a relationship or parent child relationship or inheritance. Okay, these three are same. Okay, just different terminologies. Okay, so if you have to implement is a relationship in Java, you can do it using the extends keyword. Okay, so extends is the keyword that helps you implement this particular relationship that we are seeing on the screen. Okay, so this is a syntax. Okay, we will soon hop on to our IDE and we'll write a sample program that will help us understand even better. Okay, so this is how it will turn out to be. Okay, so we can say that class Ferrari extends car. Okay, class Tesla extends car, class Audi extends car. What this means is Ferrari, Tesla and Audi are simply inheriting car class over here. Okay, so why would Ferrari, Tesla and Audi want to inherit car class. Okay. Now the reason for doing so is whichever class inherits this car class, okay, gets all the methods and fields, okay, defined in the car class. Okay. So if Ferrari extends car class, okay, all the methods that we have defined in car class and also fields, which means variables, etc. Okay, all these will be accessible within the Ferrari class. So if you have one method in Ferrari and one method defined in car class, okay, with the help of the extends keyword, Ferrari will have two methods in it. One is from the Ferrari class and one is from the car class. Okay. So we'll soon demonstrate this with the help of the example on the IDE. So let me explain to you different terminologies that we use, that everyone uses in Java to call parent and child classes. Okay. So car class is also known as superclass, parent class, or base class. Okay, because this is the this is the class that is getting extended by different classes. Okay, and Ferrari, Tesla, and Audi are also known as subclasses or child class or derived class. Okay, different people will use different terminologies in the world of object oriented programming. Some might call it superclass, some might call it base class, some might call it parent class. So it's important to know that three of them mean the same. Okay, so let's hop on to our coding editor and write a sample program that will help us understand inheritance even better. Okay, so we are on our coding editor. Now what we are going to do is we are going to define a parent class, okay, which has a variable and a method. Okay, then we are going to define a child class which has again a variable and a method. Okay, and we will be extending this child class with the parent class. Okay, so and then we will define a main class, okay, from where we can call a parent and child classes. Okay, so I have already created a sample project over here. Okay, and I'll go ahead and create our parent class. Okay, I'll call it car, like our example. Okay, and I'll define integer, public integer seats, okay, is equal to 4. Okay, I will also define a method over here. Okay, public void display. Okay, and we'll print in parent class. Okay, or we'll just print in parent class. Okay, and now what I'll do is I'll create one more class called as Ferrari. Okay, and I will just define one method over here. Okay, okay, which says similar.println in Ferrari. Okay, and I will also extend this Ferrari with the class car. Okay, now I'll create one more class. Okay, called as the main class. Okay, in main. Okay, and I'll define public static void main over here. Okay, so we have created three classes. One is car class, okay, which has one variable and one method. We have one child class which has one method. Okay, and then we have created a main class to call both these classes. Okay, so we have so one point to be noted over here is car class has one variable and one method. Okay, but Ferrari class has one variable and two methods. Okay, now the reason for this is we have only defined one method over here. Okay, so you would say, hey, it has only one method, how come it has two methods and one variable as well? So since we are extending Ferrari class with the class car, okay, So Ferrari class by default will inherit all the properties and methods of the car class, okay, and which are only public in nature. So Ferrari class has two methods and one variable, okay. Now you might say, hey, how come Ferrari class has one variable and two methods? So the reason for this is, since we are extending Ferrari with the class car, okay, so we are doing an inheritance over here, okay. Now whenever you do an inheritance, all the properties and methods in the parent class is by default available in the child class, okay. So whatever properties that we have defined over here, okay, which are public, so here we have a variable seats and a method called as display, okay. Now these both will be by default available to the class Ferrari, okay, because Ferrari is extending class car, okay. And hence we have one method which we have defined in Ferrari class, okay, and one method and one variable which we have defined in car class, both available to the Ferrari class, okay. So let me demonstrate this in the main class, okay. So first I will create the object of the car class is equal to new car, okay. I'll try to call c dot display, okay, and I'll try to run this program, okay. So this should ideally print parent class, okay. So there you see we are able to access this particular method over here, and I can also access seats over here, okay, because seats is also a part of the parent class, okay. But I'll just print in this particular line, okay, system dot out dot println, okay, and I'll just print in seats, okay. I'll try to run this program. So we are able to access seats as well, okay, with the car class object, okay. Now if I try to access c dot display Ferrari, okay, it will throw me an error, okay, because parent class object can't access child class methods and variables, okay. The reason for this is Ferrari class is extending car class, and car class is here is not extending Ferrari class, okay. So the properties and variables that we have defined in Ferrari class are not by default available to the car class, okay, because car class is not extending Ferrari, but Ferrari is extending car, okay. So this statement is invalid over here, okay. I'll just comment this out, okay. Now I'll create an object of Ferrari class, okay, Ferrari, okay. Now I'll try to call f dot display Ferrari, okay. I'll run this code, okay. Now obviously this code should work because display Ferrari is a part of Ferrari class, okay. And we see the output, okay. We see in Ferrari getting printed. Now by the concept of inheritance, we said that all the objects, all the properties and methods that are defined in the parent class are by default available to the child class, okay. So let's try and call display method here, which is defined in the car class from the Ferrari class object, okay. So I'm just going to do f dot display. We see it in the suggestion over here, okay. And I'll try and run this code, okay. Ideally this should run with the rules of inheritance, and there you see parent class getting printed, okay. So what we learned over here is the methods and variables that are defined in the parent class are by default available to the child class, and you can call it using the child class object, okay. I'll also try to call the seats variable over here, and you'll get an idea that you can access variables also. So this is the Ferrari class object, and seats is defined in car class, and I'll run this code, okay. So ideally it should print 4 again, and there you see it prints 4, okay. Let's take a look at one more scenario, okay. So I will create an object of car class over here, okay, which is nothing but the parent class as per our code. Okay, so now this is the car class reference variable. Okay, now I won't assign the car class object to the car class reference variable, but instead I will assign this with the Ferrari class. Okay, so I will initialize this with the Ferrari class object. Okay, okay, so it's saying C is already defined in scope, so I'll make it CF. Okay, so what we have done over here is we have defined a car class reference variable. Okay, so this CF is nothing but the reference variable of the car class. Okay, and we have assigned it with the object of the Ferrari class, which is the child class of the car class. Okay, so we have assigned the reference variable of the parent class with the object of the child class. Okay, so this is perfectly valid in Java. Okay, you can assign a reference variable of a parent class and initialize it with the object of the child class. Okay, so I'll go ahead by writing cf dot seats. Okay, I'll just print in this line. Okay, you can definitely so I'll just write in over here cf. Okay, and this is also a valid statement. Okay, since we are accessing seats variable with the parent class object. Okay, and now I'll try to call cf dot display. Okay, so this is also a valid statement because we are calling the function in the parent class using the reference variable of the parent class. So parent class over here is car. So a function is defined in the parent class and we are trying to call it using the reference variable or the object of the parent class. Okay, so let me execute and show this to you. Okay, so this particular code perfectly works. Okay, it's perfectly fine. Now I'll try to call the display Ferrari method which we have defined in the Ferrari class, which is nothing but the child class. Okay, so I'll write cf dot display Ferrari method. Okay, now compiler is going to throw an error over here. It will say that I cannot access display Ferrari. Okay, because we are using display Ferrari is defined in the child class and we are trying to access it using the reference variable of the parent class. Okay, so this is the reason why we can't access display Ferrari method. Okay, okay, so I'll comment this particular line over here. Okay, now what we did over here is we assigned the child class object to the parent class reference variable. Okay, so now what I'll try to do is I'll try to assign a child class reference with the parent class object. So our child class is Ferrari. Okay, I'll create CFC. Okay, and I'll try to assign it with the parent class. Okay, now we are going to get a error over here that this is incompatible types. Okay, so you cannot assign the object of the parent class to the child class reference variable. Okay, this is completely invalid, so compiler will throw an error on this. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the facts that we can derive with the help of this example. Okay, so I'll hop on to my presentation. Okay, and the first fact that we can talk about is parent class reference can be used to hold a child object, while but child class reference cannot be used to hold a parent object. Okay, so here we created a parent class reference. So we are already aware that object creation is a two-step process. So you can define like car c1. Okay, okay, and then you can create the object, actual object over here, like new car. Okay, and c1 is nothing but the reference variable, and this second step is nothing but the object initialization. Okay, and we combined these two steps in one step over here. Okay, to write it in a single line of code. Okay, which is something like this. Okay, so c1 is nothing but the reference variable over here. Okay, So I'll just erase this. So as per this particular fact, parent reference can be used to hold child object, but child reference cannot be used to hold parent object. So we saw this in the example that parent reference can be used to hold child object. So CF is the parent reference of the car class, which we are using to hold a child object. But we tried to use parent child reference to hold the parent class object, but compiler thrown an error. Okay, so this is one of the facts that you're supposed to remember. Okay, so second fact is parent reference can be used to hold child object. Okay, this is also known as polymorphism, which we will discuss. Okay, but using the child reference, we can't call child specific class method, but we can call the methods present in the parent class. So we could so by using this parent reference, okay, which has the initialization of the child object, okay, we could call the method in the car class but not the method in the child class. Okay, so this is something that we saw already. Okay, methods and variables in parent class are by default available to the child class, and hence we can call both the methods and variables in parent and child class on child reference. Okay, so we tried doing this as well. Okay, so we saw that how we can access the parent class methods by using the child class object. So display was a method in the parent class, which is nothing but the car class. Okay, and we were able to call it by using the child reference over here. Okay, so this was perfectly valid. The fourth fact is methods and variable in child class are by default not available to the parent. Okay, hence we can't call child specific methods and variables in parent and child class on parent reference. So we already saw this particular fact wherein we tried calling the child specific methods, okay, by using the parent class reference over here, but we got an error. Okay, so the fifth fact is that if we do not extend any class, then that particular class is the direct child of the object class. Okay, so whenever, so what this means is object class is the parent of every class in Java. Okay, so if we have created a class and if we don't have a parent to that particular class in our code, okay, by default compiler will make sure that it's the direct child of the object class. Okay, so over here child class is not inherited by any class. Okay, so it does not extend any class, but in background, okay, compiler makes sure that it is a child class of the object class, which is of the Java library. Okay, so object class is nothing but the part of the Java library, okay, which is the parent of each and every class in Java. Okay, but Ferrari class is not the direct child of the object class since we are extending car over here. Okay, so these are some of the facts that you're supposed to keep in mind that are very important from the interview perspective as well. So if you are applying for a job in Java, interviewer might ask you these questions to check if you are well versed with the concept of inheritance in Java. Okay. So in this lecture we covered a lot. We discussed inheritance or is a relationship or a parent-child relationship. Okay. You can refer inheritance using any of the three terminologies. Okay, we also discussed the syntax on how you can implement inheritance in Java. We understood what is inheritance in Java. We also wrote a sample program which helped us understand the implementation of inheritance, and we also derived some of the facts from that particular example. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this particular class and found it valuable. I'll see you guys in the next class. Thank you.